When my best friend and I were about 14, we experienced the most horrifying but thrilling experience of our lives. Now, for anyone to understand this, there were a few key details. We lived in a rural town in the middle of nowhere northeast. We had been friends since we were 4, and the thing that made us so drawn to each other initially was the fact that we looked like siblings. The only difference was our hair. She had white blonde hair, and I had pitch black. We were imaginative, to say the least, so this was always one of our favorite things. We'd write insane stories about magic and destiny, typically Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, pre-teen stuff, but a bit more intense. We'd never share our stories with anyone but each other, so when weird things began to happen, you can imagine our initial wonder. It began in November when we were both 13. I lived in a neighborhood which had a fence at the end of the road which blocked off a gravel road. We, thinking we were just so cool, decided to see what was beyond the gate. That's where our ritual began. We'd reach the gate, look to one another and whisper, "Open," in Latin, and jump it at the exact same time. We imagined this contained whatever lay beyond it. The landscape which was beyond the gravel road was a large hill which had the line of the forest at the top. This hill was steep as all hell, and if you stopped and looked beyond you, you could see the entire town. Anyway, our first time exploring the forests, we found the first of many messages. Burned into a cut-down tree was a word lucid, an image of an eye, and what we assumed was a name, Akasha. As we got braver and braver, we went deeper into the forests. Further down the winding trails, we began to find more messages all burned into trees. East-west forest, scream, this way, run, take the path, and the most memorable, half the light which burns twice as bright. We thought this was a big puzzle, something someone had left us to figure out. It would be summer by the time we got the guts to go 2 miles in. We came across a creek with a wood plank bridge to the other side. Immediately, we were so excited. It was like this place was built for us. I wish I never crossed that bridge. Once on the other side, that's when things went bad, and this wonder turned to eerie fear. That's when the whistling began. I can't believe I ignored it at first. It sounded like the moaning of trees, but now I'm sure it wasn't. Just beyond the bridge and up another steep hill was a hidden field. It was breathtaking, like something out of a fairy tale, but the trees on the other side looked like the villain's lair. We both agreed not to go beyond the field. It just felt off. The whistling would happen every once in a while, all summer and into the fall of that year. Always in the forest, always when we passed over the bridge. One day, on our way back, we came across a new message. Something we weren't sure hadn't been there when we had entered just a few hours earlier. It was carved, not burned, into a large oak which marked a bend in the trail. It said in sloppy, uneven letters, "It comes alive at night." This caught our attention. What was it? Who the hell carved it? The rest could almost be explained by hunters, but this didn't seem to fit. Being the dumb 14-year-olds we were, we thought this meant, hey, let's go at night. We decided that night, at the stroke of midnight, we'd venture to our hidden field. That night, despite the cold and despite our fear, we went. As usual, we followed our ritual and sprinted as fast as we could to the bridge. We were so determined, I don't think we noticed the stillness of the forest. Once we reached the field, the only thing we saw was the stars. but nothing which seemed like an it. That's when I made the dumbest decision I have ever made. I ran towards the other side. Somewhere we hadn't seen in the light. I began to weave through the brush, the twisting vines, and the swamp-like water, which neither of us were prepared for. We eventually reached a hill clear of the vines and water, and began to slowly creep up the hill. We stayed low and quiet as possible. When we reached a point where we could see the top, my friend's hand shot out and stopped me from moving any further, and she pulled us both down lower. At first, I didn't see it, but once I focused in, my heart stopped. Standing on what looked like another gravel road was something that wasn't quite human, but wasn't quite animal. It looked like a man in a top hat, until you began to focus on the disturbing details. Flesh so pale it nearly glowed, hooked feet, and again, what looked like a coat and a top hat. It had its back to us, so I couldn't see whatever horrible scene its face was, but I felt as though I was in a trance. That's when I finally heard it. The whistling. That same sweet tune. The same tune which played like a background song every day we entered the forest. That's when it turned. I've never run so fast in my life. I'll never forget those gaping eyes, that menacing, inhuman smile. We didn't stop till we reached my house, and that night, we vowed to never go back again. This story takes place 4 years ago in a place called Delamere Forest in Cheshire, England. So me and my two friends, Austin and Joe, were going on a bike ride through Delamere Forest since it was a hot summer's day. We were riding around for about 2 hours. Bear in mind it's about 8:30 p.m., so the sun is going down at this point. We decided to call it a day. As we were riding back towards where we parked the car, my friend Austin said he needed to go take a piss. So we waited for him as he walked through some trees to go do his business. As we were waiting for him, we heard him say, "Lads, come over here." We walked over to him to see what was going on, and he was crouched down behind a tree. He told us to get down, so we did. We asked them what was up, as we were quite confused at this point. He said, "Look over there in the distance." And in the distance, there was a group of about 15 people, all dressed in white robes, but one was wearing a red robe. The group of people, who I now know to be the KKK, were walking with big torches in their hands, and one of them was carrying a dead baby sheep. We watched them as they walked on, and then placed the sheep in some weird rock formation, and then set light to the dead body. We stood there, scared and confused to what was going on, and then one of the fuckers looked in our direction, and pointing at us, and then all of them turned to look at us. There was a brief moment of silence as we all looked at each other, and then they started charging towards us as quickly as they could. We got up and headed back towards the bikes as quickly as we could, and started driving away as fast as possible until we got to where the car was parked. Then, as quick as we could, we put the bikes in the back of the car and drove off. As we were driving, we looked back through the rearview mirror and saw all of them staring at us. We informed the police of the situation. They found the dead corpse of the sheep, but no sign of the people. I grew up in a small Scottish village with a population of around 100 people. The village has one shop, one pub, one park, a church, and a graveyard. Our house was even more remote, and a 20-minute drive from the epicenter of village life. My weekly entertainment was my dad driving into the village every Saturday night to get shit-faced at the pub, and me and my ADHD brother playing in the village forest down the road from this pub. Our dad would get us cans of Coke, which was the highlight, and we would run deep into this forest, high on sugar, climbing trees, building huts, and just having a great time. We would stay out until it was pitch dark and eventually drag our dad out of the pub. He would never come and retrieve us like he would this time. One night, as we were playing deep in this forest, my leg got stuck in some deep, thick mud. It got jammed right up to my knee, and I couldn't pull it out, and neither could my big 8-year-old brother. I started to freak out and cry uncontrollably. I thought that was the end of me. I thought I would sink deep into the mud and never be found again. My crying freaked my brother out even more, so we ran back to the pub to get our old man. At this point, it was starting to get dark quite fast, and I was still alone with my leg stuck. We were more deep into this forest than usual, so I knew I was going to be alone for a good 15 to 20 minutes. Not a great situation to be in, I thought. As I was crying and waiting, in the corner of my eye, I saw someone run towards me. It wasn't from the direction of the pub, but from deep within the forest. I couldn't make out any major details initially, and the person was blurred. I was hoping my dad would turn up at this point, and this new person would promptly stop running towards me. But nope. The person got closer into my field of vision, and I could make out more details. She was a girl, and looked sort of around my age, 6 years old. I knew there was something strange about her though, because she was wearing a dark gray 1800s Victorian dress, and I was certain now that she was running straight towards me, getting closer with every step. She came up to within 2 meters of me and stopped. My damn leg still stuck in the mud. Her eyes locked onto mine. I said hello. No reply, no smile, just stared deep into my eyes. "What's your name?" I asked her. Still no reply. Still, her black eyes locked. I didn't think she was a ghost or anything. She just dead-eyed stared at me for a very long time. She moved a little closer, not breaking eye contact. Time moved fast, and she simply turned around and sprinted back into the dark woods. Almost immediately after she ran off, my shit-faced dad stumbled into the forest, mumbling and swearing under his breath, with my brother following behind.